And I now refer particularly to a letter dated 7th June 2017. The late Sat Maharaj wrote to the then Minister of Education, inquiring inter alia about the completion of the, and I quote, Ramai Trace Hindu School. This is the letter I have here, 7th of June 2017, and it is captioned clear. Documents coming right up to that time that we have, where we were asking about this school from the government, has it. It is their subject, Ramai Trace Hindu School. It is crystal clear. Our documents were there. There's a reason why the ministry would not have any other record, because there's no record here otherwise. It may be, ladies and gentlemen, that Devant Maharaj and Dr. Munilal belonged to or belongs to organizations which don't operate according to its constitution or abide by any standards of corporate governance. But contrary to what they may have expected, the Mahasabha does operate with a constitution and rules and regulations. I have in my possession the check, not only the checks, which were made by the several entities towards acquiring the lands at Ramai Trace Hindu. I also have a copy of the deed of conveyance executed on the 27th of August 2013. So we know, it's not that we had to go searching for these things, we have the deed. The deed itself is something called a habendum and a recital. The recitals all have things that will show us exactly what was the history as to this land coming into our possession. It recites the amount of monies that would have been paid as the consideration. In addition to that, I also have the minutes of executive meeting held by the Mahasabha's Central Executive, dated the 2nd of October 2013. And that is one that we have, 2nd of October 2013. And in those minutes, this is where we stated, and I want to quote exactly what was stated in those minutes. Check this one. This is it. I want to quote exactly what was said in it. It states under Ramai Trace Hindu School that we have, under the correspondence, Ramai Trace, thank you, Ramai Trace Hindu School, lands purchased at a cost of $350,000. Dr. Rudal Munilal, current acting Prime Minister, passed checks totaling to Secretary General. This parcel will also be regularized. So we have that, yes. So these minutes are 6th of November 2013. You all would recall that in 2013 we had elections. That was our 5-year elections for executive, which would have taken place at the September conference. Then you would have had the October meeting, November. This is in November. This is the first minutes of meeting held on the 2nd of October 2013, and which was ratified on the 6th of November 2013. So it was there in 2013, and these are the only minutes that reference anything in relation to the Ramai Trace lands, Ramai Trace Hindu lands, and it having to be regularized. And I want to say that it's only when Vindra pulled this out from the records, one man saying that we don't know anything as though we were never around. I see the recital, the very first paragraph here, when you all held this meeting. I was not here, so I wasn't here for this recording. It says, he expressed special thanks to Mr. Dinesh Rambali. You have any other son named Dinesh Rambali? It expressed thanks to Dinesh Rambali, judge of the Industrial Court, for his acting, for the role that I played at that point in time, having the elections and otherwise. There's a whole paragraph, it is there, but this is not about me. It is not about an individual, it's about the Mahasabha. So we have the records. So, that having been said, I want to say that this whole notion of Mahasabha banditry must be dismissed outright. And I want to say that we have rules and regulations, and we have some more documents that I want to get into now, so as to set the record straight, and so that we can leave this hopefully once and for all. Now, when we look at the lands that came at Ramai Trace, as I said, there's our original parcel, and we wanted to get an additional parcel. As most of you are aware, there was never any decision at the central, meaning at this level, central executive level, to rename the Ramai Trace Hindu School to anything else. You would be further aware that there are no minutes reflecting any decision to rename the school. None. Zero. Zilch. And there's a reason for that. There were several factors, considerations, and what we also had were views voiced by even some of the said financial contributors that were vociferously against any renaming of the Ramai Trace Hindu School to somehow include Dr. Rudal Munilal's name. That is a fact. As a matter of fact, some of those persons advised that if any politician's name were to be included at all, then it should have been the then Prime Minister's name. All of that what were discussions taking place. But moving along from the inception, the school has operated under the name Ramai Trace Hindu School. Remarkably, despite this kind of generosity, or this kind of generosity worthy of highest encomium in initially donating the parcel of land for the erection of the school, neither Mr. Bihari Muklal during his lifetime nor his family thereafter ever demanded of or made representations to the Mahasabha that the school be named or even renamed in his honor. I think we need to give that family a round of applause. On the contrary, we understand that he unselfishly agreed and insisted that the school should simply be called the Ramai Trace Hindu School. The emphasis was not about the donor, but on the purpose of the gift. Of paramount importance were the children, their relatives, and the community at large who would use and benefit from the school for educational purposes. For the real hero, Mr. Bihari Muklal, and his successors, this altruistic, admirable approach never changed. The Ramai Trace Hindu School is the alma mater to many, thanks to this unsung hero, Mr. Bihari Muklal. Any decision, ladies and gentlemen, to effect a change of the name of the school is solely at the discretion and decision of the SDMS executive. It has not done so and does not envisage any reason for doing so now. In light of all of the above, all that I have said thus far, we at the executive are fortified in our views which were expressed previously on this matter and which resulted in no decision to change the name of Ramai Trace Hindu School. And I want to explain a little bit further what I mean by that. The entire population is well aware of the continuing civil litigation brought by the EMBD against certain persons, including Dr. Rudal Munilal. This litigation essentially claims that Dr. Munilal and the other defendants engaged in an unlawful conspiracy, bribery, breach of trust, knowing receipt, and dishonest assistance. That's illegal terminology. For the layman, you could just call all that fraud. Factually, the claims boil down to an allegation that the defendants, inclusive of Dr. Munilal, got together for the purposes of bid rigging. They allegedly manipulated their bids to apportion different road contracts to each other and apportion land development projects to the successful bidder. Part of the litigation brought by the EMBD allege that Dr. Munilal and the other defendants did not only combine for the purposes of apportioning contracts, but they also conspired to inflate their contract prices with knowledge of the pretender estimates, illegally procured certificates, performed valueless and or no work, and received money far in excess of services provided. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have said what the matter is before the court. We want to make it abundantly clear that the litigation is civil in nature and the claims of the EMBD are civil claims. Claims of the EMBD are civil claims. EMBD's claims against the defendants are allegations. I am not reciting it here as though they are statements of fact. Don't get me wrong. They are allegations against Dr. Munilal. As far as we are also aware, the defendants to the EMBD litigation have made an application to strike out the claim because sufficient particulars have not been provided by the EMBD for all that terminology I just told you, which I say amount of fraud, for their claim to be sustained in law. But both the High Court to date and the Court of Appeal have now ruled that sufficient primary facts have been pleaded to sustain the EMBD claim. In other words, the court says there is sufficient for them to answer. A reading of the first instance judgment, and I walk to the Court of Appeal judgment, and the Court of Appeal's ruling paint the picture that there is sufficient evidence in the round to make out the EMBD's claims. Major planks of the EMBD claim are text messages. Both courts have attached weight to these and have allowed the claim to go forward on the basis that these pleaded facts provide enough cover to establish a claim of unlawful conspiracy, or if you want to call it fraud. So given all the facts from the case as I just outlined, it is reasonable to understand the Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha's unease with naming a school after Dr. Rudal Munilal, even if we were minded to.